Hello, my name is Jesse Allison, and I'm a professor of experimental music and digital media here at LSU. And this is my office. It's where I work. It's where I pretty much live sometimes. And it's a wonderful space. I've got 2 windows overlooking a nice courtyard. Inside, I've got all sorts of electronic equipment, musical instruments, recording technology, and microcontrollers, and anything that I would want to be able to use to make my art. And in this space, I make sonic art. And that might take the form of like an acoustic composition, or it might take the form of electronic instruments that are, sorry if we can get that up there, electronic instruments that the performers play. In one of these images, we have a girls' choir who is playing with colors, girls' choir and iPad instruments. That's a good example of it. Sometimes it's more theoretical or virtual, where the piece actually exists in a game engine or in a virtual world or out across the internet, and that people can come in and join in from anywhere there. And then sometimes there's a physical component, where there's a structure that's actually inhabits a space, and observers can come in and work with it, and then also actually interact with it. And that's the thing that ties all of my work together, that there's almost always a reactivity to it or an interactivity to it. So that instead of just becoming someone who's there and is a performer, instead of being just a performer, you actually get to interact with the things and have it respond to you and become more of a responsive piece of art. You may have noticed here that there's a noise that's coming up. And that's the one thing I didn't mention about my office, is that it happens to be right next to a power plant on campus. And so even though I like to use this space to think about all sorts of, high theoretical and wonderful thoughts about sound, that's the environment that I get to work in. And it's amazing how humans can tune these sorts of things out and focus on the stuff that we want to focus on. Unfortunately, as this is my discipline, that is something that I notice, right? And every time that I come into my office. Now, fortunately, I've just kind of pushed it off to the side, and it's just become a part of my sonic environment that I live in. And basically, every sound that happens is part of our sonic environment. Everything that moves makes sound of some sort, and we might interpret that as noise, we might interpret that as bird calls or people talking. But all of those sounds go together to have this meaning of space, like this place has this meaning because of all the sounds that go on. In fact, in some of my classes, I like to play various recordings here of places, and I ask my students, where were these recorded? And they go through and they identify things like crickets or birds or, the wind rustling the leaves. And as things go down, or kind of quiet down, and we've pretty much observed all we can observe, I like to ask one more question, and that's, which of these sound files that I've played for you was recorded at night? It's really interesting that something that's not moving, it's not even creating a sound, is part of the meaning of that space. And you can identify it. There are all sorts of things that can be identified. So with that understanding of space, let's head back to my office, and I'd like to play you one more sound. So this is a recording from inside my office of the construction happening on the beautiful new south end of the stadium. And believe me, I noticed this when I got into work. I'm going to go ahead and turn that down, save your ears. Just so you know, and out of reference, that was inside my office. This is just outside of my office, right next to the power plant there. So basically, I had this sound that was forced upon me and forced upon my lovely workspace. And there's a term from over in architecture, a concept that I really love, the concept of an intervention. So anything you do in a space, anything you put into it, anything you pull out of it, anything you move around in it, is actually going to cause an effect in the very nature of the place, maybe changing the lighting, changing the way that people interact with it. So in essence, it intervenes. Anything you do in a place intervenes in the nature of that space. And this is a piece by Richard Serra called Tilted Arc, that he put up, this giant structure. It's just steel, and it goes all the way across this plaza. And when he put this art piece up, it separated the building with all of the people in it, and then the break area that they used to go out to, and the restaurants on the other side of the plaza. And so people would have to walk around it. In fact, it so affected the space that within a very short period of time, the piece was actually taken out because people didn't like it so much. So this was an architectural intervention, and what I had in my office was a sonic intervention, right? So with that going on, what do you do? Do I ignore it? Do I turn up the music? Do I put headphones on, noise-canceling headphones? Or do I have to evacuate my office so that I can get work done? Maybe set up camp in Highland Coffees. I don't know. It's not all bad. But there's really not much that you can do. So this stuff was kind of percolating in my head, or pounding in my head at one point. And I had the good fortune to work in an area of cultural computing with some really wonderful colleagues. And I'd had a meeting, or a bunch of meetings at one point in the semester. And in a conversation with Brig Ulmer, we were kind of working out this idea of the acoustic ecology and the problem for me of the power plant and of the construction, and then just other problems that are kind of pop up like that, like the windmills and how much noise they make to power things, and subways and other sort of noisy places. And we talked about, is there a way for us to take these noisy things and make them more pleasurable, right? Or at least less painful. And I think that there's some things that you could do mechanically. Perhaps you could put in resonators in a subway, and so every time something went past and all the noise came, it would resonate at really, pleasant-sounding frequencies. And maybe you could have those things change over time so that it wouldn't get so monotonous, right? Those are things you could do, but you could do a lot more if you could replace the acoustic ecology digitally, and then with another space, one that you liked more. The question is, can that happen? Turns out that yes, it can. And being on college, I see it every day. People plug these headphones into their ears and plug the other end into a computer, cell phone. They could do all sorts of processing. And then they replace the sound of the acoustics around them with whatever they feel like. And so thinking about this and thinking about, what could I do with my situation, with my problem? I went back to my office, and I went thumbing through some of my old pieces to see what sorts of things, might be useful. So this was a piece that I used, and the only sound source for this entire piece is this bowl. And it's a beautiful sounding bowl, but it has one pitch. So it's pretty monotonous. So I wrote some programming of audio processing and that sort of thing to process it and make it expand what the sonic possibilities of it. And I'm just going to play a couple sections here so you can get a taste of this. can see, just through the programming, I was able to augment what was going on. So back to my problem. What can I do? I'd like to go ahead and switch screens over so you guys can see a little bit of my process. So I'm taking this exact same patch program that I've used in my composition, and I'm going to go ahead and look at what we might do with the sound from my office. Perhaps here. There we go. That's my office. So I think the first thing that I would want to do, if I turn this down a little bit, is maybe make this less noisy and have more pleasing pitches. So this is a spectral filter. I'm going to go ahead and filter things out. So you can see I can get rid of any noise that I want and bring back pitches or sounds that I do like. And then maybe I could record that and save a bunch of these. And I've already done some, so you can kind of see, here's some. And then take that and maybe fill in the gaps a little bit. We have some delay lines here. Something like that. Tune it up a little more. Maybe bring in some pitch shifting. Basically, the possibilities are endless. So it turns out that my problem had a nice solution. The center that I'm in actually has a new building opening up called the Louisiana Digital Media Center. It's right across from one of the tranquil LSU lakes. And I have a new office that's going to be opening up in about a month on the second floor with a window that I can sit in and think about all the sonic things that I want to think about. But beyond that, I was able to, in this process, think a lot more about the sonic environment that we live in, and maybe in a slightly different way. Because now I've been challenged to be a better observer as well as an interpreter of my own acoustic ecology. And as we go out from here today, I encourage all of you to go and do some sonic interventions of your own. Thank you.